Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Leadership Speak series at L Forum. Today, I have the joy and privilege to welcome Dr. Will Ramey, former Army officer, owner of Shared Leadership LLC, and most importantly, my dear friend and classmate from Drexel. Welcome to the show, Will.
Ringo, thank you so much for having me on here. It's been a journey to get here. I've watched the show and now I get to be a guest on the show, and I couldn't be more ecstatic about this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And it's a mutual pleasure, as you can imagine, that you and I have been on this journey, the doctoral journey. And I think I have gained immensely by your wisdom and company. And I think this is, like someone said, to be continued. And we hope to see many more such collaborations in the future. So, and the reason I really felt your participation in this series especially would be a lot of interest to the audience is your background and the area you have been kind of honing in and trying to specialize as a researcher, as an academic, and also as a leader. And as I mentioned to you, the series that we are trying to focus on this time is using empowerment as a competitive advantage to organizations, entrepreneurial organizations as such. As you know, we are talking about entrepreneurial leadership, so empowerment becomes a very important aspect of the whole leadership spectrum. So given where you are, I know some of the areas that you have now looked into the world of shared leadership and so on. I would like you to share with us your journey as a leader, and then we'll slowly delve into other areas where I hope to hear your perspectives and your wisdom on this. So without further ado, I'd love to hear your background and your journey as a leader so far.
No, I appreciate that, Ringo. So it's a long tale. I think my journey as a leader started when I was 17. I enlisted in the Army National Guard, and within a year and a half, I was in my first, formal leadership position as a team leader. I was in charge of two other people in my team within my squad, and I learned the Army's way of leadership, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage, all these character traits and attributes of being a leader and the responsibility to lead people. Fast forward a few years, I got my commission through Army ROTC program at Youngstown State University, and I was off to join the Army as an active Army officer. I was a lieutenant, and my first assignment as a lieutenant was a platoon leader. I was in charge of 110 soldiers. Now, in maintenance companies are quite large. There are 300 soldiers, so my platoon was about 110 soldiers. And boy, I did not know anything about maintenance. I learned what I needed enough to be proficient, but I am not a technical person. I'm not a mechanical person. So for me, leadership was always about people and listening and communicating and building trust and support. And those are all elements of empowerment. So I learned early on that I needed to rely on something else other than technical proficiency if I was going to be a true leader, which to me is the people aspect. So I've led teams in the Army. I was deployed to Iraq in 2005. And there I was brought up to be the executive officer, second in charge of the company. I still held my responsibilities as a platoon leader. And then I was put on a maintenance recovery team as an officer in charge. And that was a small unit composed about 25 soldiers from our little company here. There was two teams, and we ran 24-hour on, 24-hour off operations. And that's where I really got into, empowerment and shared leadership as a leadership style. So you lead those teams in complex, austere operations where the consequences are the highest, loss of life, mission accomplishment, lives are on the line every time we cross out of those gates. After I spent my time in the Army, I came back. I worked at Target Corporation for a little bit in their distribution center. I was a team leader at that point in time, and then I got back in the Army Reserves, activated for 3 years. I led teams in space operations, highly technical operation, satellite communications, computer information systems. I know none of that. but here I am with the responsibility to lead. And then I joined the Department of Defense and have been a senior leader of people here for the past number of years, for everything from maintenance operations to city management and planning. Recently, the past 2 years is where I've started my own company, and I've co-authored a book with the phenomenal Dr. Lauren DiNocenzo from Drexel University. And we're co-authoring a book on shared leadership, and my company is about helping organizations build better leaders and build better teams through the principles of shared leadership, empowerment being one of those key elements. So for me, leadership has been in my professional role and part of who I am since I've been doing it for so long, decades. And that's starting to wear a little bit. I'm starting to get a little bit more gray here, Ringo. So decades of leadership, as it comes out, is a little bit, it still makes me smile to think I'm at this point in my life.
Well, you have some distance to go on that journey. I think I'm way ahead of you on that. No, I think it's been a very fascinating journey that you've had, and I think which is what intrigues me when I speak to leaders like you, how all of us have traversed different paths and different geographies and different circumstances. However, the core learning, be it Bangalore, Baghdad, or Boston, there is a common core, and that's where I'm hoping that we are able to bring forth the common learning which we can all benefit from. So you mentioned empowerment being an important aspect of shared leadership, so which kind of segues into my next question. What is your definition of empowerment? How would you explain it? How would you give examples of it?
Yeah, so for me, empowerment, it's that magic ingredient that really transforms individuals and teams into unstoppable forces of nature. It is felt, and when it's there and exists, it helps people unleash their full potential. It helps teams elevate to the next level. For me, empowerment is about bringing people together for a collective purpose, giving them the autonomy and space to operate in and decision authority to operate in the how of the work that they do. And as the formal team leader, if I'm an appointed team leader, it's also about removing the roadblocks so my team can feel safe, can feel trusted, can feel supported in what it is that we're all here to do. So I'll tell you a story about where I first used shared leadership and empowerment when I was deployed to Iraq. I was brought up as the maintenance recovery team OIC. Again, I told you, one of two teams. And our role was to go out and recover vehicles or weapon systems that have been damaged or destroyed on the main supply routes. We needed to keep the supply routes clear so the enemy couldn't, put improvised explosive devices and turn those wrecks into, something that was even more deadly. So we would get called out. And what I learned very quickly was no two missions were alike. We recovered industrial-sized reverse osmosis machines with holes in the middle. We recovered 18-wheelers with 40 tons worth of concrete barriers on the back with no tractor in front. So every mission we got called out on was a different problem set. And for me, team composition, we had specialists. We had combat drivers that were trained in combat driving. We had recovery operators that knew the mechanics of center of gravity and weight dispersion and distribution and how to pick up and recover these vehicles. And then we had this, security teams, combat lifesavers, etc. So we had all these different skill sets, but our collective purpose wasn't just to recover the vehicle. Our collective purpose was to clear the supply route so we can maintain safe operations for everybody passing through. We do that by recovering the vehicles. So we brought that team together knowing what the vision was for the overall good within our area of operation. What we did was recover those vehicles. Giving the team the autonomy started with me as the formal leader. I had to get the intel, my right hand, my sergeant. We went in, we got the intel, we got the 5 Ws, we got where we were going. And then we would give the team the freedom to figure out on the spot how they were going to recover this vehicle. I didn't tell them how, but I'm responsible. I didn't tell them what to do, but I'm responsible. what we did was we created collective ownership. Everybody had a part to play. They knew how their part fit into the overall good. And we gave them the trust, and we gave them clear communication on their left and right limits so that they had the freedom to operate. Two key elements on a recovery site: speed and security. So we needed to get security set up, and we needed to be fast on the objective. There's no time for asking every little decision for this formal team leader to pass up, pass back down, and pass through. I needed to empower that team. They needed to be creative. And that's, to me, what the definition of empowerment is: that collective purpose, that autonomy, and that trust and mutual support to operate. And Ringo, I'm proud to say, we came back alive. Nobody lost their life. We were successful in every mission we had. And I believe a part of that is due to implementing empowerment as a strategic advantage, as a tactic when we were out there in our combat operations.
Excellent. That's very, while it sounds fascinating sitting, 7,000 miles away, I can imagine the adrenaline and the stress and the fear. I mean, like, you are in a combat zone and you could potentially be in a body bag. However, to stay calm and be able to think with clarity and also lead the team, I salute you and I thank you for your service. And I think it is much to learn from these experiences. And I think sometimes they say, right, when you're under pressure, it brings out the best in you, I guess. There's a lot of learning, I guess. So, which kind of wants me to ask you this question. So you have seen empowerment happen and in really, how do I put it, potentially life-threatening situations where you could lose a life, right? So obviously you've been a beneficiary of this whole empowerment as a competitive advantage. What were the benefits which kind of jumped out at you when you saw doing this? Because you were like young and you did it what you had to do. But when you're sitting down and sipping your tea or coffee, you said, hey, that was good. So I would love to hear from you, what were the benefits that you saw?
Yeah, so at the time, Ringo, you're right. I was 24, 25 years old. Here I am sitting here, 20-ish years later. And I took those lessons from that time and have continuously implemented them in the teams that I lead today. The benefits I saw was just amazing. When we empowered our soldiers and I empower my team members, what we get back within the world of business, it ignites a spark of creativity, innovation, job satisfaction, propels your organization to new heights. Really what I found is empowered employees, they bring a fresh perspective, they bring bold new ideas, and they have an unwavering commitment because you're allowing them the space to have ownership, to be tied to a collective purpose, to have a say in how work gets done. And that increases engagement, which rolls into satisfaction, which we know rolls into higher performance. I'll tell you, one of the things that we've done, experiences I've had, I'll keep on the maintenance recovery team operation, was this idea of, we had a problem with the way the doors were designed on Up Armor Humvees when they were hit or wrecked. Sometimes they wouldn't open. Those imagine a car crash. Things don't operate as designed afterwards. It was similar to an explosion or things of that nature. But to be able to extract people and get people out safely, my team came up with a design of a hook, and they worked with the other maintenance recovery team as well. We would share all these different tactics, and that's the creativity and the innovation, right? They're asking, here's a problem set that I need solved. I need to be able to get people out quickly, and this door doesn't always open the right way. So long story short, they devised this. They fabricated this hooking system that would hook up to the winch of the wrecker of the machine there. So they had the engineering insights, and none of these guys were engineers, they're mechanics, but they had the know-how. They saw a problem and they asked, hey, can we do this? By all means. They worked out they went from design thinking to prototyping to practicing tactics and techniques to employing it during an operation, because I believe they were empowered to do so. They told me what resources they need. We went out and found them for them. That was the synergy of being a formal team leader, but giving the team the room to operate. And that was one of the biggest benefits I found, is these soldiers and other team members along the way on various teams I had, they would come up with creative solutions to problems because they were the ones that were closest to it. If it's just top down directed, you're going to spend more money and more resources trying to find a solution that doesn't really fit. But when you empower the team members and you give them the autonomy and room to solve their own problems, which is really the company's problems, you see bottom-up solutions that may be very, very simple because you're just overlooking what's happening on the day-to-day. And that's what my soldiers did, was they devised this system and were able to employ it to help save lives.
Excellent. I think, I've heard this in other, settings as well, where if you are empowering and you're letting the folks who are, dealing at the grassroots level or at the tactical level, you end up getting better solutions. And when just because you're the leader and you think you're strategic, you may be removed from reality a little bit, and your solutions are maybe partially, accurate. So I think that's a great learning, that how you manage to kind of let people do their stuff, but you're responsible. However, you're not dictating how they should operate. That's an amazing perspective, Will. So in all of this, did you see any downside or challenges to empowerment? Did it come back and bite you sometime?
Yeah, when I look at challenges of empowerment, what I see, it's daunting at first. It is a change to mindset of what some people start with when they think of what leadership is. They think leader has to own everything. They think the leader has to have all the answers. They think the leader has to be just giving directions all the time. So there's some growing pain with this idea of sharing leadership and bringing team empowerment into it. The resistance to change, I've seen. And it happened with one of my crews. One of the team leaders I had when I was working in space operations, we had a very specific mission set with technical equipment, and we had a very structured approach to how we were operating in satellite communications. And the team leader did not want to deviate from that. They were responsible, and there were some high consequences if we did something wrong, and it was very expensive equipment we were working with. So they were very rigid with following this step-by-step procedure and protocol. And what that translated to, I saw, was those junior team members, those soldiers there, they felt that their team leader didn't trust them. They felt their team member didn't support them, because they would come up with ideas on how to change, small changes that would make things better. But that team leader at the time said, no, I own this. This is mine. This is my control. And, when we were out doing some training, we ended up failing some training problems because of it. Whether it was we didn't get something done in a certain amount of time, we weren't able to operate the way the equipment was intended, and communication wasn't clear. And then what I saw was the frustration continued to mount. The team members responsible for operating were waiting to be told what to do next. They were frustrated because the ideas they had weren't being heard. So when we think about empowerment, I ended up pulling the team leader aside, and we talked about it. I said, look, here's what I'm hearing from the soldiers. Let me hear your side of things. And it was very much I'm the leader, I'm responsible, I. And to me, the biggest challenge with empowerment is that letting go of control. And I said, yep, it's I, but really it's me. I said, I'll take responsibility. I'm not on site, but I have overall responsibility. Share that power, share that control, knowing that I am going to take the brunt of if something goes wrong. I took that off the table for him, and he started to open up more. And we started to build that culture of trust. And it took time. It takes time and effort to change. But what we found was, hey, these small little ideas that keep popping up from the soldiers with small little tweaks made big dividends. It paid dividends in the end. And that's where I think that, another benefit comes in, but you have to get past the control and the trust and the ownership and know that it can be shared to embrace empowerment on a team.
Beautiful. So, I have experienced empowerment in situations where leaders let me do what I want. And you're right. I have always felt a little more adventurous and the ability to kind of do more. In fact, even in the world of academics, when you have some of your instructors and professors who let you have an opinion and let you come and discuss and make it a little more collaborative, you tend to learn that subject better. You tend to take a more interest in that, whole area. So yeah, I think while we are talking about it, I'm sure many of our audiences are enjoying this conversation. So given your vast experience and your wealth of knowledge in multiple areas, what would be suggestions you would give to young entrepreneurial leaders or all of our folks in L Forum? What would be your suggestions?
Yeah, so leading is a people business, and as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you can't do everything yourself. Although it's that trade-off, right? You start off, you've got to be a jack of all trades, but when you start to grow and build people and bring people in, you have an idea, you have a vision for how you want things to be. Work on communicating that vision, getting people on your team who see that vision, and then allow them the space to operate so that you can both learn and grow. For the team leaders out there who may not necessarily be entrepreneurs, but have that entrepreneurial spirit with how they operate within their team, be open and create that psychologically safe environment where you take responsibility right off the table. You bring people together for that collective purpose, and you're very explicit with that. Telling someone, hey, I trust you. I want to hear your ideas. What do you have for me? You got it. What do you need from me? What can I do to help provide resources for you? Let's go. And then coming back and building those processes in to assess, hey, this worked. Why did it work? This didn't work. Why didn't it work? What can we change? That's it. Failure is an opportunity to grow. And with empowerment, you're going to fail because you're going to try new things. So when you have all of that on your shoulders as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, or as a team leader with that entrepreneurial spirit, it can feel daunting. Allow space for those team members around you and that support around you to help. And you'll see performance elevate, and you'll see your potential just continue to flourish.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Ramey. Thank you for those words of advice. And I think you're going to enjoy listening to this podcast a lot. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for your participation, and thank you for being one of our biggest cheerleaders. And please continue to do so. We seek your support and guidance and your positive energy. I mean, you are a force of nature sometimes. I wonder how you do what you do. So I wish you, Shared Leadership, and all of your other colleagues in that journey all the very best. Wish you many successes, and I would like you to keep participating and probably have you on many more shows like this in the future. Thank you so much, Will.
Absolutely. The pleasure's mine, Ringo. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe to the EL Forum channel. Click the link below to enjoy the full video.